Good afternoon, all of you. Today we will start your second unit, that is Ved Vyas, Santi, Parv, and we will talk about, Raj Dharma. That is your second unit, right? I think we should start with, Mahabharat. Mahabharat, it was written by Ved Vyas, and this Mahabharat, uh, you know, it contains 18 paravs, 18 parav. Here, parav means basically it is books. There are 18 books of Mahabharat, and among these 18 books, Santi Parav or Santi book is the largest book, and this is the 12th book of 18 book. This is the 12th number, and this is the largest book among all uh, books. Among the 18, this 12th number book, that is Santi Parab, is the largest, and this book has uh, 353 chapters, and it contains 12,863 verse. Verse means slokas, right? And this book is divided into three parts. One is the Raj Dharma. What is the dharma of king? And uh, Apadadhar. Apadadhar means what is the duty in the emergency. Firstly, what is the duty of
Sir,
king? Then duty. Yes.
your voice is breaking. It's not clear.
So there is some network problem actually, Taha. So I cannot defeat the network problem. Uh,
Sorry.
so I cannot go to outside since I'm using the laptop. So I think
Now it's okay.
if it is okay, I think. I mean, you can go to, since it is recording. I mean, you can once again listen to my recording, right? It will be okay.
Okay.
So one is the Raj Dharma, that is the duty of king. The second sub book is the Apada Dharma, that is duty during the emergency, and there is Moksha Dharma, Moksha, and that is dharma or duty relating to salvation. Now, this is what Mahabharata, right? And what is the Santi Parab? In Santi Parab, there is discussion between, uh, you know, Yudhishthir and Pitamaha Bhishma, then Vyasa, Lord Krishna, and Vidur joined this dialogue. Now, what is the context? First, I think we need to understand the context. Then we will go into this Raj Dharma. You know, uh, the Mahabharat. This is called the Dharma Yudh, and this Yudh was between brothers, between the Kauravas and Pandavas. Now, to understand this conflict between the Kaurav and Pandavas, let me take back to the King Bharat. When King Bharat was the king, and from his name King Bharat, this Bharat was renamed by this king, Bharat. When he was the king, he found his son incapable for the king. So he opted the best person in his territory and made him the king, because that was the tradition at that time. Only the virtuous person will be the king. If the son of the virtuous person is, if the son of the virtuous person is not virtuous, then he cannot be the king. That was the tradition, uh, or that was the uh, dharma at that time. Then, uh, in course of time, when Santanu Santanu became the king, Santanu fell in love with Ganga, river Ganga, and Ganga did a kind of agreement with Santanu. He, since I'm beautiful, you are you have lost on me, and but I have the condition, and the condition is that whatever I will do, you will not let me down. You have to agree with my proposal. And since Santanu was the king, he thought that everything is possible for the king. I mean, he agreed with Ganga. And what Ganga did, uh, Ganga, uh, when she become mother, and then she started, you know, throwing throwing her child into the Ganga river. And Santanu, uh, just like a puppet, he was observing all these things, but he could not say anything to Ganga because there was an agreement. But when Ganga, started throwing the seventh child of Santanu and Ganga into the Ganga river, then Santanu objected that why you are throwing. Then Ganga said that you violated the agreement. Now you take this child and I will leave you, because that was the condition. The moment you object me, I will leave you. And that son was become Pitamaha Bhishma. And Santanu was very happy on Pitamaha, on Bhishma. Bhishma was given by the name by his father Santanu. But earlier, uh, I think, Taha, can you remember the earlier name of Santanu? Sorry, earlier name of Pitam Bhishma? Devadatta, Devadatta, Devadatta. So Devadatta was the earlier name of Bhishma. And Santanu was very interested in Devadatta because Devadatta learned all these, virtue and qualities. And Santanu was thinking that he will be the next king. But, you know, at that time, the king used to, fall in love with many beautiful women. They want to have relationship with them. And this also happened with Santanu. One day, Santanu saw a fisherman or a girl from the fisherman community. Uh, his name is, her name is, what is her name? Satyavati. Satyavati. Her name is Satyavati. And Satyavati was very beautiful. And Santanu fell in love. And Satyavati told that, okay, you have to talk to my father. But his father put in condition that if my daughter will be your queen, then you have a son called Devabrata. Devabrata will be the king. Then what the children of my daughter they will get, and there Santanu, uh, did not do anything. He came back to his kingdom, and he was in a very displeasure mood. And when Devadatta saw that his father is in displeasure, then Devadatta asked, and Santanu elaborated everything. Now Devadatta went to the father of that Matsya Kanya. Uh, uh, what is the name of that Matsakanya? Again, I'm forgetting. Satyavati. Satyavati. Father of Satyavati. And he declared that, okay, I will not be the king. But again, the father of Satyavati, he said that, okay, you will not be the king, but your children will be the king. Then Pitamaha Bhishma took a, Devabrata took a, oath, pratigya, that I will never marry in whole of my life. And that is called the Bhishma Pratigya, right? And when Santanu came to know about this, oath or Bhishma Pratigya, then he was very unhappy. Then he told that, why did you do that? It is against the state. My pleasure, is not, greater than the interest of the state. But then Devabrata replied, for me, my dharma is said, my dharma says to me that the happiness of my father is, for me, it's a bigger thing, right? It may be, see, personally, I don't like this statement by, given by the Devabrata, but then father gave a blessing to Devabrata, and he gave a name to Devabrata, that you are Bhishma, then you will not die uh, till you do not want. इच्छा मृत्यु का वरदान उनको मिला था. That means when you want to die, you will die, and till you do not want to die, nobody can kill you and you will not die. Now this is Pitamaha Bhishma. And the children's of Satyavati, they continues to be the king of, Hastinapur. That kingdom was the Hastinapur. And in the due course, two brothers came, you know, in the due course, actually, uh, you know, that there were no children. I mean, that the Barish, I mean, the future of Hastinapur, it disappeared due to the demise of a king. That king uh, has, three, uh, not three actually, two wives. And that king, I'm forgetting their name actually, and that they are actually the Pitama Bhishma. He called the Ved Vyas. Now Ved Vyas came and he saw, these two queen, the widow. These two queens were widow, and when he saw the first queen, uh, you know, uh, that queen, he was very, brave, and but later Vedvyas found that, okay, she was not a queen, she was actually a dashi servant, and from that dashi, a putra, a son came. That is, his name is Vidur, and from these two queens, I mean, one queen, he was confused, and she did not close her eye, but she was very terrified, and from her, Pandu uh, took birth, and then the next queen, uh, he could not see the rays coming from Vedvyas, the rays. When Vedvyas is watching to the second queen, then suddenly that second queen closed her eye, and from that queen, Dhritarashtra, came into existence. So overall, Dhritarashtra is the eldest son, Pandu is the younger to the Dhritarashtra, and the Vidur is the son of a servant, right? Then there is a kind of appetite to become a king within the Dhritarashtra from his childhood. But according to the dharma, that a king cannot be a blind person, because if a blind person cannot see, then how can uh, he will judge what is right and wrong? That's why eldest son will be the king, but if the eldest son is physically handicapped, then the next son will be the king. Then when Pandu was made the king, it created a kind of dissatisfaction within the Dhritarashtra. But somehow Dhritarashtra adjusted with the Pandu, but some unfortunate things happened. I will not describe everything. Some unfortunate things happens with the Pandu, and when Pandu lost his life, his children, he was having small children, and they were not eligible to be the Yuvraj, the next king, and that's why Dhritarashtra was made king on behalf of Pandu. So Pandu is the king. Dhritarashtra is made. I mean, he's in charge, not the principal. He's the in charge principal. And when Dhritarashtra became the king, then Dhritarashtra wanted to continue that kingdom with his, generation. I mean, he thought that, okay, my child, if he will be the elder to all the son, then my son can be the king, not the Pandu son. So that is why there is a constant competition from the Duryodhan side. Duryodhan is the eldest son of the Dhritarashtra. So there is a ongoing fight from the side of Dhritarashtra with the eldest son of Pandu. His name is Yudhishthir. So Yudhishthir have four brothers, and you know Duryodhan, he has 100 brothers, right? So conflict started, many things has happened, and at the last, you know, the Pitamaha Bhishma, he is वो सर सैया में है, वो सर सैया में, the arrows are into his body, and he is sleeping with a bed of arrows, right? And he is not dying, but he wants to see his Hastinapur protected. I mean, he wants to see the dharma prevailing in the Hastinapur, then he will live his life. So just before living his life, all the Kauravas, they have been killed. Now Pandavas have, along with the Krishna, they came to Pitamaha Bhishma to take his blessing, and there was a dialogue between Pitamaha Bhishma just before the death of Pitamaha Bhishma. There was a dialogue between Bhishma and Yudhishthir, and that dialogue constitute this Santi Parv. And as I mentioned, the dialogue between the dying Bhishma and Yudhishthir, the deliberation on the dharma, all these three type of dharma, that Raj dharma, Apada dharma, and Moksha dharma. All these three kinds of dharma that was discussed in the Shanti Parva, basically it was a dialogue or deliberation by Pitamaha, deliberation between the Bhishma and the Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir is going to be the next king after this, Mahabharata youth. So when there is a kind of deliberation and dialogue, along with it, Vyasa, the person who has written the Mahabharata, then Krishna is the Lord Krishna, and Vidur. Vidur is the son of that Dasi servant. He was very intelligent. Actually. He was the minister to the Hastinapur, and even when Yudhishthir became the king, he also continued as the minister of that kingdom. Now this Vidur, they joined with the dialogue, and whole constitute, all this dialogue constitute, Shanti Parv. All this dialogue constitute the Shanti Parv. Now in the Shanti Parv, one of the important aspect is the Raj Dharma. Raj Dharma. There is Apada Dharma, there is Moksha Dharma, but in your syllabus, only the Raj Dharma is there. So Raj Dharma is the first important subpart of Shanti Parv. We will discuss about that Raj Dharma. Now, what is this Raj Dharma? Now, Raj Dharma has multiple meaning or connotation. And what are the connotations? Especially 9 connotations are there. Raj Dharma is not the duty of the king. I mean, it is not only the duty of the king. It is several things. When you will go into the Raj Dharma, then you will find the following things. What? Now, duties and obligation of the king, ruler, or the government. What are the duties? And remember, Indian philosophy, Indian tradition, and Indian epic, we always concentrate on duty rather than the right. And we think that duty is the best. If you do the duty, then the other person will get the right. If you don't do the duty, then other person will not get the right. So first is duty and obligation of the king. And why duty and obligation of the king is important? Because Raj Dharma, the dharma of a Raja, dharma of a king, it is the ultimate dharma. Now, when the king follows Raj Dharma, then all other dharma can be folded. Just think that if the leader of your family, he or she will do adharma, then whole family will be trapped by adharma. You may be interested, you may not be interested, but adharma will be interested in you because the leader of your family is doing the adharma. So since the king is the leader, is the first individual of the state, if he will do the adharma, then the entire state will be corrupted. So the king must do his duties. The king should follow the obligations, and when the king follows the Raja Dharma, then the dharma of citizens, dharma of praja, that can be holded tightly. As a result, and when dharma will prevail upon the kingdom and in the society, done by the king, done by the Raja, and done by the praja, then the peace and justice prevail in the state. So the peace and justice that depends on whether the king is following dharma or not. So that is the first meaning of Raj Dharma. And the second meaning of Raj Dharma is that now it is dharma and good governance. It is laws and rules. So it is not only prescription to king, but also it is the prescription, it is the laws, rules on good governance, on good governance. And governance is not the job of the king always. Governance is also the job of the governed, not the governor. So governance needs both the things, governor and governed. Now, how to get a good governance? What should be the rules and what should be the laws? That is mentioned in the Raj Dharma. Then the third, the rule of conduct of a king. The rule and conduct of a king. How the king should function. What are the different, modules which can be used by king in the governance of a state? Then in the Raj Dharma you will find the theory of origin of state. How the state came into existence, you will find in this Raj Dharma. Then Raj Dharma is also about maintaining order, peace, ensuring prosperity, welfare of the people by the king. Raj Dharma deals with that. The art and the science of governance and politics, the art and science of the governance and politics, that is also mentioned in the Raj Dharma. Dispensing justice by king or the rule of law, that is Raj Dharma. In the Raj Dharma, this dispensing justice by the king, how the king should decide cases, how the justice will be done by the king, criteria of decision. Now that is also mentioned in the Raj Dharma. Then Raj Dharma is all about statecraft. That means acquisition, maintenance, and expansion of the state. How to maintain the state? how to expand the state, because it is the job of the king to expand the territory. From the expansion you will get the resources, you will get economy. From the expansion, if you win over the territory, then there will be prosperity in the state. Your praja or citizen, they will be economically sound, and from economical strength there is a spillover effect to the other strengths. Now this Raj Dharma also tells the political obligation of citizen or people towards king. So it is not only the obligation of the king towards the state or citizen or people. This Raj Dharma also tells about what should be the obligation from the side of people to the king. To the king. Now let's start the theory of origin of state or kingship. That is an important part of the Raj Dharma. Now, if you read the Shanti Parab, the Raj Dharma aspect of Shanti Parab, then you will find that there is a semi-contractual origin of the state or kingship. Semi-contractual origin of state or kingship, based on the necessity of peace and order in the society. Now, why? I mean, how the state is coming? The state is coming with a contract. But it is the contract between whom? It is the contract between the God and the king. And what is the purpose of the state and why state should be made? The state should be made in order to hold peace and order in the society. Now, so far as the purpose of the state is concerned, it is more like Rousseau's contractual theory. Rousseau's contractual theory. Now, what was the state of nature? Now, at first, every contractual theory, there is a state of nature. Now, according to this Shanti Parab, at first, from the beginning, there was no sovereignty. There was no king. Hence, there was no punishment, no discipline. Man was leading a happy, harmonious life by following the dharma. Actually, in fact, there was no problem at all. And in course of time, society degenerated, lost and worth. These two vices maligned human virtue, and as a result, men left dharma and lost the sight of right and wrong. Men could not know what is right and what is wrong. Here actually we talk about what happened to Dhritarashtra. At the time of King Bharat, The king was virtuous and the praja, the subjects, citizens, they were also virtuous. And that's why Bharat did not opt his own non-virtuous son to be the king. Rather, he selected another person, another virtuous person in his kingdom as the next king after his death. That was the time. But then time changed when Dhritarashtra came into existence, and in the Dhritarashtra you will find the vices like lust and worth. And this lust and worth, it maligned the king, and when king is maligned, then entire kingdom gets maligned. All praja, all praja, they see the image of Raja and they try to imitate the Raja. King corrupted, then the subjects will be corrupted. And that is what happened. And here in the Santipara, that was theorized. Now, when human virtue was maligned, when the nature of human beings was corrupted, then man left dharma. He did not see, or he did not try to see whether something is right or wrong. As a result, society plunged into anarchy. And in anarchy, what happens? What happens in the Hobbesian state of nature? Might is the right. Or we can say that Matsya Nyaya was or prevailed in this state. What is Matsya Nyaya? The big fish can eat the small fish. That is Matsya Nyaya. The might is the right. If you are weak, then you are going to lose. If you are strong, then you are going to enjoy. So to enjoy, you have to be very strong. Justice is what the strong needs, does. That is justice. Now, when this Matsya Nyaya prevailed, it is actually a theory. It was theorized, right? When this Matsya Nyaya prevailed in this state or society, then the sage, initially there was no king, no, as I said earlier. Then the sage, when the society gets corrupted, then the sage and gods, those who are staying in the heaven, they approached Lord Vishnu and requested him to choose one among mortals. Mortals means humans. Those who are dying, they are the mortals. Requested him to choose one among mortals who deserves to have superiority over the rest. The person who is best, having better virtue than other, all the sages and gods, they requested to Vishnu, you select a virtuous man among the mortals and make him God. Then Vishnu reluctantly, I'm using the word reluctant, Vishnu reluctantly gave the first king, his name is Viraj. Vishnu gave the first king, his name is Viraj, and he gave some of his power and declared Viraj as the king. So the first king name is the Viraj. I used reluctant. And why Vishnu was reluctant? Because Vishnu knew that no individual is virtuous. There is some vices in every individual. Every individual, there are two aspects, vice and virtue. If you realize your virtue and work according to it, then you will be a god. If you are guided by the vices, then you will be a demon. You will be a demon. And that was the reluctancy of Lord Vishnu. But he has to and says. So Viraj was the first king. We are talking about the state formation in the Shanti Parab. But in the dynasty of Viraj, a corrupt ruler, his name is Bhena, he came to, he born in that dynasty. And God removed Bhena. In fact, Bhena was killed by rishis due to his non-virtuous quality. Bhena, the son of Viraj, he was corrupted, he was non-virtuous individual, and he was killed by the rishis with the consent of Lord Vishnu. And the son of Bhena, that is Prithu, his son, he was made the king. So after killing the Bhena, the non-virtuous, corrupted ruler, the son of Bhena was made the king. Now you can understand the reluctancy of Lord Vishnu. The Lord Vishnu knew that Viraj may be the good, but there are certain vices in the Viraj, and that vices may be expressed by this son of Viraj. And it happened. The Bhena become corrupted, non-virtuous. So when Prithu was made the king, an agreement was made between this king Prithu and rishis in the presence of Brahma. And why an agreement was made? And there actually the contract starts. Why the agreement was made? Now, if the father is corrupted, then the son may be corrupted. So there is a kind of distrust on the divine qualities of the king. If Bhena is non-virtuous and corrupt, then there is a possibility that the son of Bhena may be corrupt. That's why an agreement was conducted between the Prithu is the king, and Rishi. Here Rishi symbolizes the virtue and knowledge, and king symbolizes the power. So there was an agreement or contract between this power and the knowledge. Power means king or Prithu, and knowledge means rishis, sages. And that agreement happened in the presence of Brahma. And in that agreement, it was decided that the king has to maintain the peace, order, and discipline, and foremost, the dharma. The king has to protect peace, order, discipline, and the dharma. So, what we learn, the power has to maintain. Even today, the person who is sitting on a chair, on power, the power has to maintain peace, order, discipline, and dharma. The power has to protect, strengthen, maintain knowledge. And within the knowledge, you will find this peace. Knowledge is peace. Knowledge is order. Knowledge is discipline. And knowledge is righteousness. So, in that agreement, it was decided the power must respect, protect, and maintain the knowledge. Now, the ruler, Prithu, was given the oath for governance to fearlessly accomplish the peace and order and all those tasks in which dharma resides. So the king's duty, king took a oath. There is a oath ceremony that I will protect, I will accomplish peace and order in the society, and I will do all tasks in which dharma resides. I will protect the dharma. I will disregard what is dear and what is not. I will look upon all citizens and praja with an equal eye. That is equality before law and equal protection of law. That was the part of our Indian tradition and philosophy. I will not be parochial. I will be global, I will be universal. If God is for all, then I will be for all. That's my duty, that's my dharma. Thus, state originated by the divine intervention to maintain peace, order, and prosperity, and dharma. State enable the achievement of individual and common good the moment you go beyond your parochialism, the moment you get a universal vision, then you work towards common good, you work towards general will, you work towards the welfare society, welfare state, you work towards justice, you work towards liberty, equality, fraternity. Now, these are the common good. So when the state does so, or when the king does so, then each one do their duties appropriately the way king does. So as a result, the entire society, along with the king, will be guided by the dharma, by the duties. What was actually initially the state of nature according to the Shanti Parva was all about. So there are duties in different parts of the life. There are duties in different position, and doing all these duties is nothing but creating an ideal state. And in the Western thought, the Plato has said the similar thing. But since this Mahabharata is older than the Plato, there are some, they doubt that maybe Plato read our own tradition, Indian tradition and philosophy, and tried to theorize the state being influenced by the theory of origin of state that is mentioned in this Shanti Parva. So I am stopping here. We will continue. We have 5 classes on Raja Dharma. We will continue, and hopefully within 3 or 4 classes we will complete the Ved Vyas. Then we have to go to Manu. So after teaching Manu, I will conduct the second internal. So if there is any doubt, confusion, observation, comment, you can do before we complete this class. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions, any doubt, any observation?
No, sir, no doubt.
No doubt?
No, sir.
Acha. Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, sir, little bit.
A little bit enjoyment. Why? Is it because of network problem?
Yes, sir. Actually, your voice is breaking all the time, sir. I think it's raining here, so that's the issue, sir.
Okay.
I
So
will.
I hope that if you go back to the recording, Taha,
Yes,
if
sir.
you go back to the recording, I hope that you will get whatever I said. I started with Mahabharata. I gave a context to this Shanti Parva, and I mentioned what are the 3 subpart of Shanti Parva. Raj Dharma is one subpart, and in the Raj Dharma I defined what is there in the Raj Dharma, what are the multiple meaning or connotation of this concept Raj Dharma. Then I picked up one aspect of Raj Dharma, that is the theory of origin of state. And today I discussed about how the state came into the existence and what is that semi-contractual origin of state. That is what I dealt today. So I hope if you go to my recording, you will be clear. So thank you very much. I have to
Sir,
end this class. Yes,
so are you going to send your recording by today itself?
it's there actually. Yeah, today itself actually it's there. I mean, after 1 hour you may find in the in that faculty mail ID you can find.
You are not accessible with that, sir.
There you can. So it is not accessible. I mean, you can talk to Prakash. He may do something, but I can access it. but then you talk to your teachers, so you can access all the talks. Actually, initially, you know, 6 classes, six, no, I mean, initially, 6 classes, I did not record it because I used this, faculty Gmail when I taught you the Islamic and syncretic, and I'm teaching you Ved Vyas. So you will get my recording, and the other, lectures, that is also there in the mail ID. You talk to Prakash so that he can do something. You can, uh, you know, revisit all those talks and take your notes. Okay. So I'm stopping this recording.